A pond that is too clear has no fish. A person who is too nitpicky has no friends. If you argue with family and win, the familial bond is lost. If you're too calculating with your beloved, the affection will fade. If you win against your friends and they lose, the friendship will no longer exist. In an argument, people often focus solely on logic, forgetting that what's lost is affection, and the one who suffers most is themselves. What's black remains black, and white is white. It's best to let time prove things, shed your stubbornness, and use compassion to discern people. Add a little enthusiasm, a little composure, and a little warmth, and life will always have sunshine. And ultimately, you will be the winner. Human life is, in fact, a continuous process of self-reflection. Don't aspire for everyone to understand you, nor wish for everything to go your way. Life has no fixed template. All it takes is a heart that knows how to love, look deep within, and remind itself to get back up after every fall. When troubled, try to find a small joy. When tired, give yourself a moment to pause. When your heart is restless, let your mind breathe slowly, like a windless lake. The human mind is like a lake. When it is still, we see the sky. When it is turbulent, we only see the waves we ourselves create. As long as we are willing to awaken, that peaceful sky will always be there. Life is as wet as the great ocean. The ocean can embrace 100 rivers, which is why it becomes immense. If people know how to open their hearts, appreciate those who help them, and even appreciate those who have been against them, their minds will mature day by day. Those who lift us up help us stand firm. Those who challenge us help us become strong. There are two things in life we cannot avoid. One is to walk, the other is to stop. Every step requires clarity. Every pause requires calmness. A positive mindset is the best companion, preserving health and joy. In daily life, everyone desires recognition and love, but if you constantly crave something from outside, your heart will easily grow tired. True peace comes from within, not from praise or applause. A wise person knows how to accumulate human kindness, like depositing it into an invisible account. The more you deposit, the more you will have to rely on when difficulties arise. A far-sighted person always maintains a gentle demeanor. When faced with complex matters, try to lighten them. When faced with heavy burdens, simplify them. The angrier you get, the slower you must go. The more confused, the deeper you must breathe. Life suffering mostly comes from comparison. When you see others doing better than you, dissatisfaction arises. When you see others doing worse, your mind easily becomes arrogant. But in this world, there are always people who are not as good as you, and also people you cannot compare yourself to. When you complain that you don't have nice shoes, think of those who don't even have feet to walk. Contentment is the root of peace and joy. Look back and ask if someone's harsh words or contemptuous gaze are worth losing your peace over. Like being bitten by a mad dog, must you bite it back in revenge? Therefore, it's best not to dwell too much on others' malicious words. Don't view work as a burden. When you approach everything with joy, work also becomes a source of happiness. To live one more day is a blessing. The sun rises and then sets. A day of sadness passes, and a day of joy passes. The only difference is the mindset of the person living that day? Was it lighthearted or not? Life is not about having hope to persevere, but persevering to have hope. It's not about having an opportunity to act, but acting so that opportunities open up. It's not about being wealthy to share, but sharing to become wealthy. It's not about having money to learn, but diligently learning to make money. All things operate according to the cycle of impermanence. What cannot be kept, do not cling to. Those who know when to appreciate and when to let go will have the opportunity to encounter better things. Enter life with a tranquil heart and a gentle eye for gain and loss, and your heart will be at ease. True abundance is actually very simple. Many don't realize it because their thoughts are too complex. Life has its busy moments and its peaceful ones. Each moment has its own beauty. Intense emotions eventually soften. No matter how splendid life is, it needs a quiet space for the mind to rest. Serenity doesn't come from circumstances, but from a heart that knows how to open and understand. In life, almost everyone experiences moments where it feels like their heart is gripped by an invisible hand. Some suffer because words don't go their way. Some suffer because of a loved one's silence. Some suffer because work isn't smooth. And others suffer because they see injustice everywhere. But if you listen a little deeper, you'll realize something important. People don't suffer because of circumstances. They suffer only because of their own desires. When you wish others would understand you, and they don't, resentment begins to brew. When you want everything to go your way, and life takes a different turn, your heart starts to churn. When you think you're right, but others don't listen, your mind begins to stir. If the mind is a lake, these desires are like stones thrown into the water, preventing the lake from being still. Waves arise from stones. Suffering also comes from the mind. Many people think their lives are difficult because they met the wrong person, lived in the wrong place, or chose the wrong profession. But in reality, the root lies in their own inner stubbornness. The more rigid the mind, the more exhausting the path. The more the mind insists on things going its way, the more it encounters things that don't. The more the mind wants to hold on, the more it feels loss. It's like someone holding a hot cup of water. The tighter they grip, the more it hurts. Only when they let go is their hand freed. Life is the same. Some things slip from your grasp the harder you try to hold on. The more you try to control, the more tired you become. The more you want to be loved in your own way, the further away those who genuinely care for you become. People often suffer because they carry too many comparisons. Gain and loss, superiority and inferiority, comparing themselves to others, which then gives rise to self-pity or arrogance. These comparisons are like needles piercing our already fragile hearts. When we see others doing better than us, our hearts are unhappy. When we see ourselves doing better than others, we fear that one day we will lose. The mind gets caught in an invisible race with no finish line. It's like riding a bicycle. Only when you stop pedaling do you realize how tired you are. Only when people stop comparing can they truly feel relaxed. We also suffer because we want others to see us through perfect eyes, wanting everyone to praise us, acknowledge us, and understand our feelings. But life doesn't operate according to anyone's desires. Each person has a different perspective. Each person has their own story. One blade of grass. One person sees green, another sees only a trivial object. One cup of tea. One person finds it fragrant, another finds it bitter. One's own words. One person hears them lightly, another hears them heavily. Each mind, a different scene. Each scene, a different feeling. You cannot force the world to see you as you wish. The more you demand it, the more you tie yourself to an invisible rope of suffering. Suffering also comes from wanting to hold on to too many things, holding on to superiority and inferiority, right and wrong, criticisms, old hurts, the desire for praise, holding sadness in your heart like a burning coal. The hotter the coal, the more the hand hurts. But we embrace that pain ourselves. No one forces us. Sometimes, just an unintentional comment from someone else can stay with us for years. Not because the comment was sharp, but because we took it too much to heart. The pain lies in the mind, not in the words. Resentment also lies in the mind, not in what others do. Some suffer because they want a lot of love, but don't know that true love is giving, not demanding. Some suffer because they want to hold on to others, but don't understand that everyone has freedom, like clouds drifting in the sky. Wanting clouds to stay only makes them dissipate faster. Some suffer because they view life with suspicion, doubting others, and not trusting themselves. The more suspicious the mind, the more uneasy it feels. The more uneasy the mind, the more it feels life is against it. But in reality, life only reflects what we carry within. A calm mind makes for a calm life. A turbulent mind makes for a turbulent life. During her years as an office worker, Ms. Hoa always felt that no one understood her. Going to work every day felt like entering an invisible battle. She expected her colleagues to know her intentions, to do things the way she thought was right. If anyone offered a word of advice, she immediately thought they were criticizing her. When someone gave feedback, she didn't see the good intention, but only focused on her feeling of being hurt. At home, she wanted her husband and children to indulge her preferences, wanted everything to go according to her arrangements. She always tried to control everything, like someone trying to tie down the wind. But does the wind ever stand still? The more the wind is restrained, the more fiercely it rages. One evening, because dinner wasn't the dish she liked, she got angry. No one dared to utter a word. The atmosphere in the house was heavy, like rain about to fall. Late that night, Ms. Hoa sat alone in the living room, a yellow light bulb casting light on the wooden table. The glass of water on the table was still slightly warm. She looked at the glass of water and sighed. In her heart, only one question echoed endlessly. Why does everyone disappoint me? Why doesn't anyone understand me? Why can't my loved ones do as I wish? That question had no answer, only an emptiness like the silent room. The next day, she went to the pagoda with a friend, sitting under the eaves, listening to the wind rustle through the leaves, listening to the temple bell chime in the breeze. She began to perceive something she had never considered before. The monk taught that people suffer because they expect others to make them happy. They suffer because they want life to go their way. They suffer because they want everything to belong to them. They suffer because they view everything through the lens of gain and loss. Hearing this, she felt as if someone was speaking exactly her inner thoughts. But what changed her wasn't the monk's analysis, but his final words. Suffering doesn't come from life. It comes from our own minds. At that moment, she suddenly remembered the glass of water from the night before. The small glass of water was enough to make her upset. The glass of water remained still, doing nothing to her. Only her mind stirred itself up. She began to understand that it wasn't her husband who was wrong. It wasn't her children intentionally resisting. It wasn't her colleagues who were clueless. It was her own heart that wanted everything to happen according to a preconceived pattern. When the pattern was even slightly askew, she would get angry, just like someone holding an umbrella in the rain who feels annoyed if even a single drop falls on their face. But if we open our hearts and feel the light rain, we might find the weather truly refreshing. From that day on, Ms. Hoa learned to look at things with new eyes. When colleagues gave feedback, she listened instead of reacting. When dinner wasn't the right dish, she asked herself why she considered food more important than family. When someone said something not to her liking, she reminded herself that people have the right to their own thoughts. Not everyone has a duty to understand her. The more she wanted others to understand, the more disappointed she became. The more she wanted everything to go her way, the further life deviated from her wishes. She realized that by reducing her desires, her heart naturally felt lighter. Miss Hoa's suffering is also the suffering of many people. Some suffer because others don't love them. Some suffer because loved ones don't listen to them. Some suffer because colleagues don't follow their wishes. Some suffer because the world doesn't treat them as they desire. But ultimately, we will realize one truth. The world doesn't have a duty to please us. Everyone lives according to their karma and circumstances. Everyone has their own path. Everyone has their own way of loving. Some love with words, some love with actions, some love with silent sacrifice. If you force them to love in your way, disappointment will come continuously. Suffering doesn't actually come from what others do, but from what we want them to do. It doesn't come from their words, but from how we interpret them in our hearts. It doesn't come from events themselves, but from how we perceive them. For the same rain, some find it annoying, some find it refreshing, some find it inconvenient, and some find it relaxing. Rain is still rain. Whether one feels suffering or not depends on each person's mind. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is attachment. Attachment to praise, attachment to criticism, attachment to one's image in the eyes of others, attachment to the feeling that one must always be right. The more you cling, the more you suffer. When you can let go a little, your heart lightens a little, like a lotus leaf. No matter how heavy the rain, the water cannot cling to the leaf. A mind that knows how to let go is also like a lotus leaf. All suffering touches it, but cannot wet the mind. The most important thing is to turn back and look at yourself, asking, why did I react that way? Why am I so sad? Why do I want people to understand me so much? When you can answer these questions, you will see that the root lies within your own heart. Others are merely a reflecting mirror. The fault isn't in the image in the mirror. The fault lies in the dust on the mirror, or in your own gaze. If you want to suffer less, practice reducing your desires. Desire less for others to understand you, less for things to go your way, less for holding on to everything, less for comparing. When there's less clinging, the mind will be light. When there's less wanting, life will be peaceful. When there's less demanding, we will be more grateful. when we are grateful, we will see life become more beautiful. Try to look at life with gentle eyes. Try to smile when small things don't go your way. Try to breathe when your heart gets agitated. Try to speak softly when someone is wrong. Try to listen when someone shares. One day, you will see all the suffering that once troubled you is just like a thin layer of dust that can be gently wiped clean. Finally, remember, suffering doesn't come from life. Suffering comes from the mind. When the mind is clear, life will be clear. When the mind is at peace, life will be at peace. There are days you wake up feeling like your shoulders are carrying a heavy rock. Not a real rock, but things you haven't been able to put down. Yesterday's old matters, lingering annoyances, unfulfilled desires, fears of abandonment, things you want to hold on to, but no longer fit. Then you ask yourself, why is my heart always so crowded? Why does every step feel heavy, even though I carry nothing in my hands? People suffer not because of external events, but because of what they hold on to for too long in their hearts. Holding on to someone's words, holding on to an old wound, holding on to an expectation that no longer serves, holding on to a feeling that no longer belongs to you. The tighter you hold, the more it hurts. The more you cling, the more tired you become. Many mistakenly believe that letting go is an act of weakness, that only when powerless do people choose to let go. But in the spirit of Buddhist teachings, letting go is not giving up. Letting go is a form of maturity. It is the step of someone who understands themselves. It is the choice of a contented heart. Not everyone has the courage to put down what they once considered important. Not everyone has enough peace to watch something float away without trying to hold on to it. Letting go is strength, because only strong people dare to gently release things that cause them suffering. Sometimes you hold on to a person simply out of fear of losing them. Sometimes you hold on to a job simply out of fear of starting over. Sometimes you hold on to a fractured relationship simply because you don't want to feel empty. But clinging to something that no longer fits is like hugging a cactus. The tighter you hug, the more it hurts. The more you cling, the more you're injured. In life, some things don't belong to you, no matter how hard you try. There are also important things whose time has simply passed. Not everyone who leaves is a loss. Not everything you let go of is a disadvantage. Sometimes letting go is simply finding lightness. Try to imagine your heart as a cup. If the cup is full, nothing more can be poured in. If the cup is always filled with old worries and troubles, how can there be room for new peace to enter? Some people keep accumulating things in their hearts, little by little. Others' words, others' actions, past events, petty grudges. Each day, a little more, until one day the cup overflows, and the heart bursts in exhaustion. People say letting go is like putting down a glass of water. When your hand is tired, you release it to feel light. When your mind is too full, you let things go to find peace. The Buddha taught that all things are impermanent. What you are clinging to today might be different tomorrow. People change, feelings change, circumstances change, and you yourself change. We keep trying to hold on to the old simply because we haven't accepted that impermanence is the truth of life. But the more you resist impermanence, the more you suffer. A leaf must leave its branch when the winter wind comes. A flower blooms when conditions are right and withers when they're gone. What in life lasts forever? Even our own bodies renew cells every day. Yet, we try to hold on to an old memory, an old person, an old sorrow, as if holding on will bring happiness. But clinging to something that no longer lives in the present only makes our hearts lose space for other good things. Letting go isn't forgetting. Letting go is no longer letting that thing bind you. Some think letting go is erasing everything. But that's not it. Letting go is accepting, smiling at what has happened, no longer demanding that old stories change to lessen your suffering. A wound can leave a scar, but doesn't necessarily have to hurt forever. A memory can sting the heart, but doesn't necessarily have to be clung to. Sometimes, letting go is telling yourself that it's over now. You've come far enough. You don't need to carry it anymore. In teachings, suffering arises from clinging. Clinging to being right, clinging to being hurt, clinging to others treating you as you wish, clinging to everything going your way so you can be at peace. When the mind clings, suffering comes. When the mind lets go, peace naturally arrives. Like a fist, the tighter you clench, the more tired you become. Opening your hand brings lightness. Holding something in your heart is weighing yourself down. Opening your heart and letting go is freeing your mind to be at ease. To understand the meaning of letting go more clearly, let's hear the story of Monk Min and the old rice sack. This is a simple story, but contains a very profound lesson. Monk Min was a young novice at the pagoda. Every time he went alms round, he would carry a heavy old 10-kilogramme rice sack. This rice sack was not given to him by anyone. It was something he held on to himself. He thought he should cherish the rice he had begged for with his own hands. Because he cherished it, he carried it everywhere. Because he held on to it, he never felt his steps were light. Every day, he would return to the pagoda with aching shoulders and heavy breaths. Outsiders looked on, and no one understood why he kept carrying such a heavy thing. But to him, that rice sack was his effort, his pride, something he felt he had to keep. One day, the master saw him entering the temple gate with an exhausted face. The master asked, "Are you tired?" He bowed and replied, "Yes." The master looked at him for a moment and then asked, "Why don't you put the rice sack down?" Monk Min was surprised, as if he had never thought about it. He replied, "Because this is rice, I begged for myself. I thought it was my responsibility to keep it." The master smiled gently and said, "Try putting it down." Monk Min obeyed and put the rice sack down. It was a simple action, but when the rice sack left his shoulders, he slightly faltered because a wave of lightness spread throughout his body. His shoulders were light. His hands were light. His steps were light. And his mind was also light. He realized that the real burden was not the 10 kg rice sack, but the thought that he had to keep it at all costs. The master looked at him and said, "There are things you try to hold on to in your heart that are much heavier than this rice sack. If something is in the past, let it go. If something no longer fits, gently release it. Not everything needs to be carried your whole life. There are things that, once put down, lighten your mind for a long journey." The story is very simple, but shows us a truth. What tires people is not the weight of the problem, but how they cling to it. An unintentional word can become a burden if we keep dwelling on it. A small failure can become an obsession if we don't accept that it's over. A relationship that has run its course can become a source of suffering if we keep trying to cling to it. Whether the rice is heavy or light doesn't matter. What matters is whether we are willing to put it down. In everyday life, we also carry many such rice sacks. Sacks of blame, sacks of low self-esteem, sacks of overly high expectations, sacks of wanting others to understand us, sacks of words from the past that we still hold in our hearts, sacks of sadness that linger from month to month, year to year. The longer the sack is held, the heavier it becomes. But only when we put it down do we realize how tired we have been. Letting go doesn't mean no longer loving. Letting go isn't being cold. Letting go is knowing how to protect your own heart. Like holding a lemon in your hand. If you squeeze too hard, the juice squirts into your eyes. If you hold it just right, the flavor remains intact. It's the same in relationships. When you cling too tightly, affection suffocates. When you gently let go and allow things to be natural, love has room to breathe. A person who knows how to let go is someone who knows how to love themselves. Because they understand that their body has struggled enough, their mind has endured enough. There's no need to add any more burdens. When the mind is vast enough, small things naturally become light. When the heart is steady enough, the storms of life cannot sweep away inner peace. Some ask, how do I let go? Letting go is not a single moment, but a process. First is recognizing what you're holding on to. Like Monk Min, realizing he was carrying an overly heavy rice sack, then asking yourself if that thing is still needed in the present. Does it fit your steps now? If it no longer fits, gently put it down. Don't blame yourself for holding on too long. Don't blame life for making you heavy. Simply put it down, like taking a deep breath, then letting all worries go with your exhalation. You can practice letting go by pausing for a moment during the day. Place your hand on your chest and feel your breath. Breathe in to calm the inner disturbances. Breathe out to release unnecessary tension. Breath is the bridge that helps you return to yourself. When the mind returns to the breath, all the noise of life suddenly recedes. When the breath is stable, the mind naturally settles. And when the mind settles, you will find it easier to let go. Letting go is also like taking a stone off your back. It feels heavy when carried, but because you're used to it, many don't realize. Only when you put it down does the whole world seem to open up. Each step becomes lighter, each scene clearer, each breath deeper. When the heart is light, life naturally softens. If one day you feel so tired that you don't want to take another step, try asking what is weighing your shoulders down. It might be an overly large desire. It might be someone you're trying to hold on to, even if they don't want to stay. It might be an expectation you've placed on yourself. It might be a fear you've hidden for a long time. Look it straight in the eye, smile at it, then gently put it down if you know it's no longer necessary for your journey. Letting go doesn't make you weak. It makes you lighter. It's not the strong who travel far, but the light who endure long. Life is long. Don't carry too many things. The longer the road, the lighter you need to be. The lighter the mind, the more peaceful it is. Letting go is a gift you give yourself. It's the door to freedom. It's the path to peace and joy. No one can let go for you. But if you dare to gently release your grip just once, you will find an entire sky opening up within you. Water is only clear when undisturbed. The mind is only peaceful when it knows how to put things down. Happiness is not in how much you have, but in how much you know to let go of. Letting go isn't abandoning life. Letting go is stepping deeper into life, but with a light and open heart. When you know how to let go, you will know how to love. When you know how to love, you will see life soften. And when life softens, the path ahead will be brighter. Let your heart be light from today, because when the mind is light, life will naturally be at peace. There are days you look around your life and ask yourself why you still don't feel happy. You have a job, a family, and most of life's necessities. Yet your heart feels empty, a sense of lacking something you can't name. The more you look at others, the larger that void grows. They are richer than you, happier than you, more successful than you. Looking at others like this makes you forget that you, too, have things worth cherishing. If the mind is always comparing, how can it be at peace? If the heart always desires more, how can it ever be enough? Many sufferings begin with comparison. You see your neighbor buy a new car and suddenly feel your own house is old. You see friends post pictures of luxurious travel and feel your life is dull. You hear others boast about their high-paying jobs and feel your own work is mediocre. Comparison makes the mind restless. Comparison makes the heart diminish what it already has. A shirt that was once beautiful seems old when you see someone else with a newer one. A meal that was perfectly satisfying seems bland when you see others eating something more delicious. The problem isn't with the shirt or the meal, it's with the mind. If the mind doesn't know contentment, it will always feel lacking. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from craving. Craving makes us want more. Attachment makes us cling. When these two combine, the heart is always pushed into a state of lack. The rich want to be richer. The poor want to be less poor. But if not careful, they will only want more. Those who have happiness want even more happiness. It's not wrong for people to desire better. But if the mind doesn't know contentment, no matter how much you have, it will never feel complete. It's like drinking seawater. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. The more you have without knowing contentment, the more you suffer. Trituk is knowing enough, or contentment. Contentment is knowing when to stop. Contentment is seeing what you have as a gift. Contentment is being grateful for things that seem ordinary, but are precious. Try to look deeply into life. Someone complains every day that life is too difficult, but when asked, they have health, family, food, clothing, and a place to return to when tired. Not everyone has these things. Someone lying in a hospital bed wishes they could walk like you. Someone working tirelessly just wishes for 3 meals a day like you. Someone trades everything just to have youth like you. Yet you yourself forget that you have so many things worth cherishing. What makes us suffer is not what we lack, but that we don't know contentment. A contented mind is like a calm lake. Clear water reflects a bright moon. Turbulent water reflects a blurry moon. A contented mind is bright. A lacking mind is restless. When you know contentment, everything becomes lighter. When you know contentment, the mind no longer chases external things, but turns inward. Happiness isn't something you run to find. It's something you settle down to see. In life, there's a beautiful saying. Many forget. Knowing enough is enough. If you wait for enough, you'll never have enough. Because if you wait until everything is perfect to be happy, that joy will never come. Life is inherently imperfect. People are inherently incomplete. And you yourself cannot be perfect. But if you are content with yourself, you will find everything is enough. Just a warm meal, just a healthy loved one, just a heart not overly disturbed, just waking up is already happiness. To understand the meaning of a contented mind more clearly, let's hear the story of Uncle Two selling bananas and the man in the car. It's a very ordinary story, but opens up a lesson about contentment. Uncle Two is 65 years old. Every morning, he wakes up very early to arrange bunches of bananas on his small stall at the market. His life is as simple as can be. He lives in a small house with nothing valuable, but what everyone passing by notices is the constant smile on his face. Uncle Two is always cheerful, whether it's sunny or rainy, whether sales are brisk or slow, whether he profits or loses. Many are curious why he lives with such a light heart. One day, a man named Hung drove a luxurious car and pulled up near Uncle Two's banana stall. Hung was a wealthy man, had a good job, and a complete home, but he was always dissatisfied. Dissatisfied because he didn't have enough money. Dissatisfied because others were more successful. Dissatisfied because life wasn't as he wished. He stood watching Uncle Two for a moment, and then asked, "You work so hard. Why are you always smiling?" Uncle Two looked at him and gently replied, "I have the health to stand and sell. I have customers who come to buy. I have children to look forward to coming home to. That is enough." A simple answer made Hung's heart sink. He looked at himself. He had many things others dreamed of, but he never felt he had enough. When he achieved one goal, he immediately thought of another. When he had something good, he immediately compared himself to someone who had something better. His life was like running in an endless loop, an invisible race that never ends. He had never looked back at what he had and been grateful. He only focused on what he didn't have and worried. The story of Uncle Two and Hung shows the difference between two types of people. One always lives with a contented mind. The other always lives with a lacking mind. A contented person isn't content because they have a lot, but because they know how to appreciate what they have. A person with a lacking mind isn't poor because they want more. A contented person is always happy because they see the flowers in their hands. A person who waits for enough will always be lacking because a flower blooms, and then they want a bigger branch. Contentment isn't living passively. Contentment isn't ceasing to strive. Contentment is knowing when to stop, when necessary. It's appreciating the present. It's knowing that happiness isn't in desire, but in feeling. Contentment is knowing that much wealth is not as good as a rich mind. A large house is not as good as a large heart. Possession is not as good as gratitude. A grateful heart is the richest heart. If you feel your heart often compares, there's a small, very effective exercise. Every day, write down 3 things you are grateful for. The 3 things you have don't have to be grand. Just simple things like a delicious meal, a healthy morning, a caring friend, a hearty laugh. When you write them down, you'll realize that you aren't lacking as much as you thought. You have more than you imagined. You are more sufficient than you think. Your mind will gradually become peaceful. Your heart will gradually become calm. When you practice gratitude regularly, you will find that things that once bothered you become lighter. You will find that things that once annoyed you become smaller. Gratitude is like moonlight shining on a disturbed lake. As the moonlight touches the water, the lake gradually calms. When a grateful heart touches life, life gradually becomes more beautiful. It's not life that changes, but the mind that changes. When the mind is beautiful, the scenery is beautiful. When the mind is clear, the path is clear. The more expansive the mind, the fuller the happiness. A contented person is not someone who gives up on dreams. A contented person is someone who doesn't let illusory, lax, obscure, real joy. You can still strive every day, but not forget to appreciate every step of that journey. You can still set goals for yourself, but not forget that your present is also worth living. A contented person understands that happiness is not at the end of the road, but in every step they take. It's not about waiting for everything to be perfect to be happy, but that this very moment is already joy. In Buddhism, contentment is the source of peace and joy. A contented person will not be caught in the vortex of craving and comparison. They are not sad because they see others doing better than them. They are not worried because they don't have something yet. They know that everything is interconnected by circumstances. When conditions are right, it comes. When conditions end, it goes. No clinging, no competing, no demanding. The mind is light when it knows contentment. The mind is clear when it knows contentment. The mind is peaceful when it knows contentment. There is a truth that anyone who lives long enough realizes. The greatest lack is not a lack of money, not a lack of resources, but a lack of peace. Money can bring you convenience, but only a contented mind can make you happy. A house can make you comfortable, but only a grateful heart can bring you peace and joy. People rush through life hoping to have enough, but they don't realize that a contented mind is already enough. Try to look at what you have: a roof over your head, a warm bed to rest, a loved one to share with, a job to sustain yourself, a body that is still healthy to keep going. These things are ordinary, but priceless. If you can recognize the value of these things, your life will be much brighter. A contented mind helps us stop the exhausting race with life, a race with no winners, a race that makes us forget the joy of the present. A grateful heart does not run to the past to regret, does not rush to the future to worry, but stands still in the present and cherishes every moment. This is the key to happiness. Not something distant, not something grand. Simply knowing contentment. When you know contentment, you will find yourself less hot-tempered. When you know contentment, you will complain less. When you know contentment, you will strive less. When you know contentment, you will envy less. When you know contentment, you will compare less. The heart will be light, the mind at peace, life joyful. Happiness will arise from that. No one can live your life for you. No one can decide for you what is enough or lacking. Only you know whether your heart is full or empty. And only you can teach your heart to be content. Look at yourself with gentle eyes. Be grateful for every small thing. Cherish every simple moment. Because once you feel you have enough, you are already happier than many people. Contentment is not stopping. Contentment is walking without losing inner peace. Contentment helps us see that life is beautiful when we don't demand too much. Contentment helps us live more lightly each day. Contentment helps us love ourselves more. And when the heart is content, life naturally settles. Let your mind settle and learn contentment. Because when the mind is content, happiness lies right in the present moment you are living. There are days when people step out the door and feel their hearts heavy, as if carrying an extra stone. Not because of bad weather or tiring work, but because the injustice in life perplexes them. Someone who does bad deeds lives freely, while the kind-hearted encounter many obstacles. Someone deceitful gets promoted, while an honest person suffers losses. Such thoughts make many souls wonder and doubt whether life is truly fair. They ask themselves if their good deeds have any value or only lead to personal disadvantage in the constant struggle of gain and loss, superiority and inferiority. In that moment, karma is not something too distant or dogmatic. Karma is simply a silent truth operating, like the breath that people unintentionally forget. When we breathe in, we know we are breathing in. When we breathe out, we know we are breathing out. Karma is the same. When we plant a seed in life, no matter how small, it is silently sprouting in the soil of our own consciousness. Karma is not a matter of the distant future, but something happening every minute in our thoughts, words, and actions. Many people think that karma is punishment, a penalty for wrongdoing. But in reality, karma is simply a mirror reflecting one's own mind. When our heart is pure, the lake water is clear. When our heart is muddy, no mirror can reflect an image. People suffer because they expect things to happen immediately. Sowing today and wanting to reap tomorrow, doing good in the morning and hoping for repayment in the afternoon. That is the suffering of haste. If a seed is forced to sprout immediately, it will only wither. If kindness is forced to be repaid immediately, it will only be distorted. Everyone has felt, at least once, a sense of disadvantage when doing good deeds and receiving suspicion or misunderstanding in return. Some help friends, but are accused of trying to curry favor. Some support colleagues, but are thought to be scheming. Some give, but hear malicious gossip. When this happens, people's hearts easily become bitter, and they ask themselves if living well still has meaning. The truth is, every time we think like that, a thin layer of dust clings to our hearts. Many layers of dust accumulate, causing the light within us to dim. And then we can no longer clearly see our own path. The Buddha always reminded that karma isn't a magic spell creating immediate justice, but a flow that nurtures the mind. Karma helps people learn responsibility for every thought and action. Karma helps us see that the seeds in our hearts will find a way to return to us. Not to punish, but to remind us that every action leaves an imprint. That imprint can be a moment of peace or a burden, depending on how we live. If we look at life with angry eyes, we find everyone hateful. If we look at life with worry, we find everything frightening. If we look at life with love, we find that everything has a reason to be understood and empathized with. And if we look at life with karma, we see that no one is doing anything to us. They are only reflecting the mirror we once showed them. In daily life, karma is present in the smallest things. When we speak pleasant words, the heart of the person in front of us opens up. When we speak harsh words, they withdraw. When we act kindly, our heart expands. When we act narrowly, our heart contracts. The more expansive the mind, the more open life is. The narrower the mind, the more easily everything becomes a burden. There is a truth that everyone must realize at some point in their lives. No action falls into oblivion. All of them leave a trace. A small thought can make our day peaceful or restless. A word can make someone feel lighthearted or heavy-hearted. An action can make a life better or worse. When we understand that, we begin to take responsibility for everything we sow in life. But why do people often forget about karma? Because people are used to looking at what's immediately in front of them and rarely look deeply. People look at cars, houses, and positions, forgetting that human life is not measured by possessions, but by the mindset one lives with. A person can own a lot, but always fears losing it. When they get one more thing, they fear losing another. That is the suffering of attachment. When that person sows seeds of contention, they reap restlessness. When they sow seeds of competition, they reap exhaustion. When they sow suspicion, they reap loneliness. Conversely, a person who knows how to sow kindness in every small act always maintains the ability to smile, even when life is imperfect. They don't need to prove they are right, don't need to be better than others, don't need anyone to bow down to them. When their heart is at peace, they look at life with clarity, like moonlight pouring onto a lake. If the lake is still, the moon is visible. If the lake is turbulent, the moon is fragmented. The moon is still there. Only the human heart changes. Karma is the map that helps people know which direction they are going. Not a map of the external world, but a map of the inner world of the mind. When we sow goodness, the path in our mind brightens a little. When we sow evil, the path darkens a little. And so our mind expands or contracts. To explain karma in the most relatable way, people often use the image of a glass. If the glass is full of water, nothing more can be poured in. If the mind is full of hatred, it cannot receive love. When we do evil, our mind is like a glass of muddy water. Even if clear water is poured in, the glass remains murky. We must let the glass settle, allow the mud to sink to the bottom. In life, that settling of the mind is the process of repaying karma. When the mind is willing to pause and settle, the water will become clear. When the mind is willing to settle and see, life will become bright. In a lesson on karma, the teacher gave a peculiar exercise to help students understand the value of sowing and reaping. It was the story of a student named Nam. That story is remembered by many for its simplicity, yet profoundness. One clear morning, the teacher led the class to a wide, grassy field. He told each student to walk straight into the field and find the most beautiful blade of grass. But there was one important condition. They could only walk forward and were not allowed to turn back to choose again. Any blade they passed was gone. It sounded easy, But when Nam entered the challenge, he found it incredibly difficult. Nam saw a first blade that was very beautiful. A fresh green color, perfectly round shape, veins running like a beautiful painting. But Nam thought there might be a more beautiful blade ahead, so he didn't choose it. After a few more steps, Nam saw another blade more beautiful than the previous one, but still hesitated. He thought, who knows, there might be an even more perfect blade ahead. And so, Nam walked past hundreds of blades of grass, but he passed every single one because his heart was always waiting for the most perfect one. Until Nam reached the end of the field with no more blades to choose from. Nam looked back and realized he was holding nothing in his hands. When he returned, the teacher asked Nam if he had chosen a blade. He bowed his head and said, "I didn't choose any." The teacher looked at him and smiled kindly. The teacher said that karma is like that journey in the field. People always want to choose the best, but don't know that the best lies in the choice they dare to reach out and grasp. If you keep waiting for perfection, keep waiting for everything to be favorable before sowing good deeds, then you will never sow anything into life. If you don't sow, you don't reap. If you don't reap, life will only be filled with regret. The teacher said that every action today is the blade of grass you choose. It may not be perfect, but if it is wholesome, it will still sow wholesome seeds. If it is positive, it will still create good results. No one knows what the future will be like, but everyone knows what they are sowing in the present. Nam listened and remained silent for a long time. He felt that the lesson was not just about the blade of grass, but also about how he was living. He used to hesitate when he wanted to help others, fearing rejection. He hesitated to speak kind words, fearing misunderstanding. He faltered when he intended to apologize, fearing others' judgment. Every hesitation was a blade of grass left behind. And when life reaches the end of a journey, sometimes the only thing left is regret. That story reminds people that karma doesn't require grand gestures. It only needs sincerity. Someone walking by the road unintentionally picks up a stone from the path so others don't trip. That person sows a wholesome seed. A child knows how to say thank you when given a gift. It sows a seed of gratitude. A person does not seek revenge even when insulted. That person sows a seed of compassion. A small action can change someone's entire day. And those days contribute to changing an entire lifetime. When talking about karma, many people fear karmic retribution. But those who understand the Dharma see karma as a friend. Because karma has no purpose of judgment. It only helps us see which bricks we have laid on our path. That brick can be wholesome or unwholesome, light or heavy. And then we must walk on that very path. No one can walk it for us. Karma teaches people to slow down to observe their minds. When we are angry, that is when we are sowing seeds of anger. When we speak hurtful words, we are sowing seeds of suffering. When we patiently listen, we are sowing seeds of love. When we forgive, we sow seeds of freedom. Every seed sown is a practice of the mind. Every practice of the mind brings growth. Understanding karma helps us blame others less and take responsibility for ourselves. Those who do wrong to us create their own karma, and how we react creates our own karma. If we respond with hatred, we sow more suffering for ourselves. If we respond with equanimity, we help ourselves step out of the dark whirlpool. Every choice is a sowing. Every sowing creates the future. When people understand karma, they no longer want to compete, because conquering others is not as good as conquering oneself. Conquering oneself means conquering anger, selfishness, and envy within oneself. The one who conquers their mind is truly free. To live according to the spirit of karma, people don't need to do anything grand. Start with 4 small things. First, keep your mind upright to clearly see what good to do and what evil to avoid. Second, keep your words gentle to create a peaceful space for those around you. Third, maintain kind actions so that your mind feels lighter after every deed. Fourth, keep your thoughts pure so as not to sow bad seeds in your heart. Karma doesn't wait for a distant future to be seen. It comes immediately in the feeling of peace or restlessness every night before bed. Those who live kindly, even with little money, sleep peacefully. Those who live deceitfully, even if wealthy, cannot sleep soundly. That is present life retribution. Not everyone who does bad deeds is immediately punished by heaven, but their own minds punish them from the moment they sow bad deeds. Karma helps us realize that people are not distinguished by luck, but by the mind that knows what to sow in life. Those who only know how to take are poor in love. Those who know how to give are rich in a bright mind. Those who only know how to hold on are tired. Those who know how to let go are light-hearted. Those who only know how to demand suffer. Those who know contentment are at peace. When we look back at our lives, we will see that everything is karma. Every person we meet in life is a circumstance. Every event that happens is a result. Every action we take today will become the cause for tomorrow. Therefore, sow good deeds whenever you can. Don't wait for perfection. Don't wait for convenience. Don't expect repayment. Sow, and you will reap. And reaping in peace is worth more than any material reward. So, in the end, the most important thing is not how much one achieves in life, but how clear and bright their mind becomes. Thanks to what they have sown, those who understand karma will no longer wish to compete with life, but only want to keep their minds at peace. Because when the mind is at peace, life also settles. So, continue on your path with awareness. Sow good deeds, no matter how small. Speak kind words, no matter how soft. Do good work, even if no one sees. Because these silent seeds will become a garden of peace in your mind. And when our mind is at peace, all directions in life become clearer. Life becomes lighter when we understand that karma is not meant to teach us fear. Karma is meant to teach us to live more wisely each day. When we understand this, we naturally know how to move forward with a stronger heart. We have together looked back at the journey of every choice in life. Every seed sown silently grows in its own way. And when people realize that no step is meaningless, they begin to understand more about the value of every action in daily life. From there, we lightly step into a deeper aspect, the kind heart. For if karma is the root, then a kind heart is the branch and leaves. The root nourishes the branches. The branches provide shade for life. A firm root brings abundant shade. A gentle heart brings lasting blessings. The great suffering of human life lies not only in external events, but also in the feeling of being judged every time we choose to live kindly. Many people have confided that they want to do good, but fear being exploited. They want to live gently, but fear being looked down upon. They want to keep their hearts pure, but fear becoming weak. This is the familiar struggle of those trying to live right in a world that isn't always gentle. People worry that they will suffer losses, be defeated, lose out, be harmed when facing the competitiveness outside. And the more they think, the more tired they become. The more they worry, the more they fear. The more they fear, the more discouraged they become. This suffering is not unique to anyone. Everyone has at least once wondered if good people still have a place in this life, if a kind heart still has meaning, if good intentions will still be reciprocated. Many people become reserved simply because they have been hurt by the very things they thought would bring joy. They retreat. They close their hearts, reducing a part of their true selves to avoid another disappointment. But when viewed with awakened eyes, we will see that the root of that suffering is not due to good or evil, but lies in clinging to the outcome. People are afraid to do good because they expect good to return immediately. People are afraid of being hurt because they hope kindness will be reciprocated with equivalent kindness. When people's hearts place expectations too high, sadness will follow. When the mind still demands, disappointment will materialize. That is why many people grow tired of living kindly. The Buddha taught that a kind heart is the seed, good intention is the soil, and kind action is the rain. When all three meet, good flowers naturally bloom. But when the flowers bloom is not up to us. The season comes, flowers bloom. The season passes, flowers wither. Life is the same. Our job is to sow. The job of circumstances is to bloom. The job of time is to repay. When we do good and still expect a return, we are still living with a calculating mind. When we help others and still expect their gratitude, we are still living with a competitive mind. When we are kind but want immediate respect, we have not fully understood kindness. Kindness is not a transaction. Kindness is a natural flow from a heart that is no longer dusty. A kind person is not a weak person. A kind person is someone who understands that life always returns to its true nature. What you sow, you reap. Every good deed has a way to return. To understand more deeply, let's look at a very relatable story. A story of an ordinary woman, but one that contains a clarity that makes many reflect. It is the story of Miss Lan. Ms. Lan worked as a cleaner in a small, crowded company. Everyone was busy. Everyone focused on their own tasks. But Ms. Lan had a special habit. She would always carefully pick up items someone had carelessly dropped. A pen, a notebook, a handkerchief. Sometimes it was just a small note someone had forgotten. She would quietly keep them and then find a way to return them to their owner. She helped others as if helping herself, without demanding, without boasting, without needing anyone to know. But not everyone understood her. Some colleagues started whispering. They said she was easily taken advantage of. They said living too kindly in this day and age only made others look down on her. They said she was naive. They said she trusted people too much. These words were like pebbles thrown into a calm lake. They created small ripples, but the ripples would dissipate. The lake remained untouched. Ms. Lan continued to do what she believed was right, and her heart remained as peaceful as ever. Then, one day, the director's son dropped his wallet in the hallway. Ms. Lan picked it up and didn't rush. She opened it only to see if there were any documents to identify the owner. The wallet contained both identification and many important items. She gently put everything back intact and took it to the administrative office, asking them to contact the owner to return it. When the wallet was returned to the director, he was surprised that the person who had kept it all that time was the always smiling cleaner. He was even more surprised to learn that she had helped many employees in the company multiple times without ever mentioning it. The director remained silent. He observed her way of life, how she chose kindness as naturally as breathing. Soon after, the company announced a raise for Ms. Lan. Not only that, many employees who used to mock her began to look at her with different eyes. They realized that kind people are not weak. Kind people are those with such strong inner strength that they are not swayed by ignorant words. Ms. Lan's story is like a warm cup of tea placed in the hands of someone cold. It not only conveys warmth, but also awakens faith in kindness. No one knows how many sarcastic remarks Ms. Lan had to endure, but those words didn't make her afraid. On the contrary, they made her heart shine brighter. Because when people clearly understand the value of what they do, they no longer care what others think. From the perspective of karma, goodness never loses, and goodness never disappears. A kind person only seems to lose in the eyes of others, but in the eyes of circumstances, they are always protected. A kind person may lose a little immediate benefit, but gains long-term peace. A calculating person may gain an advantage at the moment, but loses many things later. Because life has many wins that look like victories, but are actually losses. There are many losses that look like defeat, but are actually victories. The true victory is a peaceful mind. The true defeat is a disturbed mind. A kind heart is not something to be put on display. A kind heart is like moonlight shining on water, gentle yet bright, soft yet clear. It doesn't need to be noisy to make others feel it. When we live kindly, we are like someone holding a small lamp. That lamp doesn't help us go faster, but it helps us go in the right direction. It doesn't make us strong immediately, but it helps us not get lost in the darkness. In Buddhist teachings, kindness is not just an action. Kindness is also a breath. Kindness is also how we look at life. Kindness is also how we treat ourselves. No one can be kind to the world if they haven't first been kind to their own heart. A truly kind person is not someone who always tries to please others. A kind person is someone who knows how to keep their heart pure amidst a murky life. If a glass of water is stirred, it becomes cloudy, but if left to sit, it will become clear again. The human mind is the same. When we chase after gain and loss, the mind becomes cloudy. When we let go of gain and loss, the mind becomes clear. A kind person is someone who knows when to put down their glass of water, knows how to let it sit, knows how to let it settle, knows how to let it become clear. On the path of cultivating the mind, what's important is not how many good deeds we do, but whether we can maintain inner purity. A good deed done with a calculating mind is not called kindness. A small deed done with a sincere heart becomes great kindness. Kind people sometimes don't know how many people they have helped, but those who were helped always remember very clearly. As life becomes increasingly competitive, kind people are more easily misunderstood. But the more they are misunderstood, the more they must preserve the truth within themselves. Like a lotus growing from mud, yet retaining its pure fragrance. Like moonlight shining on a lake, knowing that the lake cannot reflect the moonlight back. When people understand this, they will see no need to prove they are good. Their own mind knows, heaven knows, karma knows. To live kindly in life, remember a few gentle things. Keep a compassionate heart. Train your eyes to look at others with patience. Practice your breath to stop when angry. Practice speaking kind words when your mind is clear. Choose to be silent when words might cause harm. Kindness is not exchanged for respect. Kindness is to keep the mind light. When we live kindly, we live lightly. When we live lightly, we live joyfully. When we live joyfully, we live at ease. That is a blessing. And although everyone has different journeys, whoever keeps a kind heart will keep their peace. Whoever keeps their peace will create blessings. Whoever has blessings will not worry about life's ups and downs. A kind heart is always the safest refuge for its owner. And when a kind heart is nurtured, life begins to change in a gentle and lasting way. People don't need to prove anything. They just need to live right, live enough, live kindly. Because in the end, what brings us peace is not whether we are better than someone else or someone else is better than us, but whether we can maintain the purity of our own mind. There are days when we wake up with our hearts heavy, as if carrying an old, worn-out sky. As soon as we open our eyes, we think of what will happen. Fear of being late, fear of unfinished work, fear of criticisms from yesterday that still linger. Often, while brushing our teeth, we think about the meeting this afternoon. While eating breakfast, we recall something someone did to upset us last night. While getting ready to leave the house, our minds are already tens of steps ahead. Life thus sweeps us along like a swift current. That current doesn't wait for us to catch our breath. We are pushed forward without a single moment to pause and realize we are living. Everything becomes tiring. The mind easily tenses up. The chest feels heavy. Breathing becomes shallow. And before long, we feel that life has too many things beyond our control. This suffering is not unfamiliar to anyone. It is our own suffering, the suffering of all those living in the rush of life. People often think they are tired because of work, but in reality, most of the fatigue comes from a mind that cannot stay still. The mind rushes to the past. The mind rushes into the future. The mind twists like a leaf blown against the wind. The mind has no anchor and is therefore easily disturbed by just a sound, a glance, a small story. The Buddha taught that the mind is like a lake. When the wind is too strong, the water becomes cloudy. When the water is cloudy, we cannot see the bottom. Similarly, when the mind is carried away by delusions, we cannot see the truth that is present right here. And this inability to see makes life more chaotic. Many people don't know that the root of so many troubles in life lies in a very simple thing. We are not living in the present, living in yesterday's memories, living in tomorrow's worries, living in thousands of unanswered questions, living in things that don't truly exist. We are like someone holding a glass of water, but their mind thinks about the spilled water from the day before, so they regret it. Or they think about a nicer glass of water someone else has, so they compare. The result is that we don't know if the glass of water in our hand is warm or cold, full or empty, fragrant or bland. Similarly, we don't know how beautiful the present is, how precious this breath is, how this moment might be the only moment we are truly alive. According to the spirit of Buddhist teachings, suffering does not come from external events, but from our attitude towards those events. A person walking in the rain might be annoyed at getting wet, but another person might smile because the rain cools the sky. Rain is still rain, but when people's minds differ, the scene also differs. Therefore, what matters is not how life treats us, but how we look at life. Mindfulness is that clear vision, the ability to see everything as it is, without being swayed by the past or pulled by the future. It is gentle awareness that helps us navigate each day lightly, without being swept away by emotions. Many people think mindfulness is something profound, that you have to be in a temple to practice it, meditate for hours to achieve it, study scriptures to understand it deeply. But in reality, mindfulness is incredibly close, familiar as breath, soft as morning light, simple as a loving gaze. Mindfulness is knowing what you are doing. Drinking water means knowing you are drinking water. Walking means knowing you are walking. Breathing means knowing you are breathing. When we bring our mind back to the present, a space of peace naturally opens up within. Just as when mud settles, water becomes clear. And when water is clear, the moonlight reflected in it is also more beautiful. Our mind is the same. Only when we can stop do we see that everything around us is gently unfolding. There is a very ordinary story that contains an awareness that many have forgotten. It is the story of Kwan and his morning tea. Kwan is a young man, and his life is as busy as anyone else's. Every morning, he has a habit of making a hot cup of tea, but he never actually drinks that tea. Because he holds the tea in one hand, his phone in the other, his eyes glued to the screen, his mind full of unanswered messages, pending emails, tasks to handle. He drinks tea without knowing what it tastes like. He drinks tea while his mind is elsewhere, and every day the tension within him increases. One day, his father sat beside him and said softly, like the wind, "Try drinking a cup of tea by just drinking tea. No phone, no thoughts, just drink." Kwan didn't understand at first, but he tried to follow. He put down his phone, looked at the steaming cup of tea. He brought the cup closer, took a very light breath. The tea smelled clean and gentle His hand felt the warmth of the ceramic cup. He took a small sip. The tea flowed down his throat, a pleasant sensation spreading like warm water throughout his body. He suddenly saw clearly that the taste, the warmth, and that peace were always present. But until then, he had never realized it, because he had never truly lived in the moment he was living. Just a few simple seconds startled him. For so long, he thought he was living. But in reality, he was only chasing life. He realized he had never given the present a space. It wasn't life that took away his peace. It was he who forgot his own peace. It's like someone standing by the ocean, but only looking at the phone in their hand, thus missing the blue waves crashing on the shore. Mindfulness touched him with just a cup of tea, a moment, a breath, a glance at what was truly present. That story gives us much to ponder. People often think happiness lies somewhere far away, but happiness is sometimes just a hot cup of tea drunk fully. Every day, we do many things without knowing what we are doing. We eat while our mind thinks about work. We work while our mind thinks about someone who made us sad. We rest while our mind thinks about unfinished tasks. Our whole life, we rush by and say that life is too difficult. In reality, life is not difficult at all. It's just that we are not fully present in life and miss every moment that could nourish our soul. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering comes from the mind chasing after delusions. Thinking too much about the past will make us sink into regret. Thinking too much about the future will make us live in worry. The past is gone. The future has not yet arrived. Only the present truly belongs to us. But the present is what we live in the least. Some people live 30 years, but only experience a few moments. Others live 30 years and fully experience every day. The difference lies in mindfulness. When we place our mind in the present, life becomes more profound. Our mind becomes lighter. Our breath slower. Everything becomes less stressful, and we have more space to be ourselves. Some ask, how do I practice mindfulness? How do I not get carried away by thoughts? How do I keep my mind at peace amidst a turbulent life? In reality, the path begins very gently. No need to be overly strict. No need for complexity. Just choose a small task and do it completely. For example, in the morning when drinking water, know that you are drinking water. Feel the warmth or coolness. See the light reflected in the glass. Smell the faint fragrance. When walking, know that your feet are touching the ground. Feel the soles of your feet connecting with the surface. Hear the sound of your steps. These very small things can bring the mind back, like dropping a stone into a lake to stop the water from rippling. When the mind returns, the present will open up. When the present opens up, peace is present. Another practice is to follow the breath, breathing in, breathing out, not trying to control it, not expecting immediate tranquility. Just breathe as your natural breath, breathing in, knowing you are breathing in, breathing out, knowing you are breathing out. When the breath becomes an anchor, we are less likely to be swept away. Just as in the open sea, with a steady anchor, a boat will not be swept away by big waves. The breath is that anchor. Mindfulness is the art of returning to the breath to maintain inner peace. Modern life constantly distracts us. Social media, messages, notifications, sounds, work. But precisely because so many things pull our attention, returning to ourselves becomes even more essential. If we don't actively take control of our minds, life will drag us along. We must know how to stop. Stopping is not abandoning life. Stopping is allowing the mind to breathe, like a lotus leaf floating on water, because it doesn't cling to the water. Our mind can also be light if we don't cling to too many thoughts. When the mind is light, life is light. When the mind is at peace, the scenery is at peace. When the mind is expansive, everything has a place to resolve itself. To help listeners practice more easily, I would like to guide a very gentle 3-minute mindfulness meditation exercise. Just 3 minutes, but it can help the mind relax as if it's been cleansed of dust. Before starting, sit comfortably with your back straight, but soft, not stiff, not forced. Place your hands on your thighs or in front of your abdomen. Gently close your eyes. First, feel your entire body. Feel if your shoulders are slightly tense or relaxed. Feel if your face is relaxed or contracted. Feel if your breath is fast or slow. Don't adjust anything. Just observe yourself with a gentle gaze. Then bring your mind to your breath. Breathe in gently and know you are breathing in. Breathe out gently and know you are breathing out. If your mind is distracted, that's okay. It's normal. Just notice it and return to your breath. Feel the air flowing into your nose. The air is slightly warm as it goes out. Feel your abdomen rising and falling. Just 3 minutes of fully placing your mind on your breath, and you will feel a settling within yourself. This settling is not forced, but the mind gently guides itself down. Just as when a lake is undisturbed by wind, it naturally becomes flat and clear. When you open your eyes, smile gently and look at everything around you as if seeing the world for the first time. Look at your hands. Look at the light entering the room. Look at the warmth of life present. Then return to your work with more slowness and awareness. Just spending a few minutes like this each day, you will find your mind less heavy and everything less difficult. And the miracle is that when the mind is at peace, everything around also becomes harmonious. Mindfulness is not to escape life. Mindfulness is to live life fully. When you are truly present in every moment, you will realize that life is not inherently complicated. What makes it complicated is the mind constantly chasing after other things. When the mind returns, all confusion will naturally unravel. Mindfulness is the boat that carries you across the ocean of suffering without being overwhelmed by turbulent waves. It is the moonlight illuminating the path, helping you recognize every step you take. It is the morning tea that helps you understand that happiness has never left you. A person who lives with mindfulness is someone who knows how to gently enjoy life, like watching a flower bloom. No rushing, no competing, no forcing everything to go their way. When the mind stands still, life no longer frightens us, because we clearly see everything that comes. When the mind is bright, darkness no longer bewilders us, because we understand that darkness is merely the absence of light. When the mind is awakened, all troubles have a way of resolving themselves, because we realize that everything has a cause, a condition, karma, a path to pass through. Mindfulness is the art of living in the present moment that the Buddha wished to impart. A simple art that anyone can practice. An art that doesn't require books, doesn't require complex rituals. It just needs a mind that knows how to return, a breath that knows how to recognize itself, and a person willing to pause in the midst of a rushing life. Put down the past to lighten the mind. Think less about the future to calm the heart. Live in the present to realize that peace has never left you, not even for a breath. You don't need to become a skilled meditator. You just need to become someone who knows they are alive. When we look back at this life, we will realize something very special. The greatest storms people go through often don't come from external events, but from emotions rising within. Our suffering rarely comes solely from what someone says, but from letting those words penetrate our hearts like a stone falling into a lake. The stone is small, but the ripples spread endlessly. Someone criticizes us once. We're angry all day. Someone wrongs us once. We think about it all night. A word of criticism can make us lose sleep. A disapproving glance can make our hearts heavy for a week. Sometimes we ask ourselves, why am I so easily hurt? Why can just a small conflict, an offensive word, make my entire morning collapse? Why do some people explode in anger, like fire meeting oil at the slightest trigger? Why do some families remain silent with each other for months over a single argument? So much suffering in the world. In reality, it stems from three very close things. First, we want others to go our way. Second, we cannot control our own reactions. Third, we let emotions lead instead of letting wisdom illuminate. The Buddha taught that the weak are those who always seek revenge, the strong are those who know how to forgive, and the wise are those who know how to let go. These three sentences sound light as wind, but carry a treasure trove of wisdom. The weak seek revenge because they cannot overcome their own anger. The strong forgive because they have overcome the instinct to compete. The wise let go because they know that holding on only weighs down their heart. A conflict between two people can end in a few minutes, but the wound in the heart sometimes lasts for years. Some often ask, how do I control my emotions? How do I not get angry when misunderstood? How do I not get upset when my efforts are dismissed? How do I not suffer when others treat me wrong? The answer is always very close. Emotions are not enemies. They're waves. We just need to learn how to stand firm instead of trying to erase every wave in life. The sea never runs out of waves. It's just that those who know how to swim don't drown. Life is the same. Difficulties cannot disappear. But those who know how to maintain their inner peace are not drowned in worries. In Buddhist teachings, people suffer primarily from two things. One is the mind of anger, which burns intensely within like hot coals. The other is the mind of attachment, which forces one to hold on to things that should have been released. Every time we get angry, it's like we throw a hot coal into our own heart. Every time we cling to winning or losing, it's like we put chains on our heart. Gain and loss are just two sides of a coin. Winning and losing are just two transient wins in a person's life. Strength or weakness doesn't lie in the body, but in the ability to control emotions. Let's imagine the heart is like a clear glass of water. When the water in the glass is still, we can clearly see the bottom. When the water in the glass is stirred vigorously, it becomes cloudy, and we see nothing. Emotions are the same. When we let others stir our minds, we immediately lose clarity. At that moment, we react instinctively, not wisely. We say things we shouldn't say. We do things we will later regret. We let emotions lead, like a driver in the dark without lights. If they go a little too fast, they'll have an accident. Those who have experienced a long stretch of life realize that no one suffers more from big things than from small things. We can prepare for big things. Small, unexpected things are what make us falter. An impolite remark, an unjustified accusation, a confusing message, a disapproving look. These seemingly small things are like specks of dust in the eye. Small, but painful. Small, but making us irritable with ourselves and even our loved ones. Many people go to work all day under pressure, feeling stressed. When they get home, just one wrong word can immediately make them angry. It's not because the word was significant, but because there was already too much fatigue inside that they didn't know how to release. Many people think controlling emotions means suppressing them, but suppression only makes us like a pot boiling with the lid on. One day, the steam builds up, and the pot explodes. Mastering emotions isn't about forcing yourself to be silent. It's about looking deeply into anger to understand it. When anger is understood, it shrinks. When sadness is understood, it dissipates like morning mist before the sun. Our mind is also like mud and a lotus. If we keep stirring it, we only see mud. If we let it sit for a while, we will see the lotus bloom. There is a story very close to life that anyone who hears it can easily reflect on themselves. It's the story of Duke, a hot-tempered man, so hot-tempered that just one displeasing word would make his face red and his voice high-pitched. At the company, everyone avoided him, because if things didn't go his way, chairs would crash, and the atmosphere would become tense. Once, in a meeting, he argued with a colleague named Tam. The two argued over a small matter that turned into a big conflict. Duke slammed his fist. Tam angrily retorted. In the end, the company had to penalize both of them for affecting work. That evening, Duke returned home from work feeling utterly exhausted. In his heart, he was angry and resentful, convinced he was not wrong. He stepped inside and put down his briefcase, but the gaze of his young daughter made him pause. She ran to hug him and said something that, even years later, would sting his heart whenever he recounted it. She said, "Daddy, don't be angry anymore because I'm scared." Just a short sentence like that crushed his heart, as if someone had squeezed it. He sat down, looked into his daughter's clear eyes, and realized something that many adults take a long time to understand. We can win an argument with someone, but we lose to ourselves in the eyes of our loved ones. From that day on, Duke began to change. Not an immediate change, but little by little, like a drop of water gently falling into a glass. Whenever he felt angry, he paused. He took a very slow breath in and exhaled very gently. Then he took a second breath, then a third. 3 breaths that sounded simple, but saved him from countless, meaningless arguments. One day, his wife accidentally said something that bothered him. He was about to react, but then remembered his breath. He looked down at his clenched hands, relaxed them, and breathed slowly. Before his wife could fully understand what was happening, he smiled gently. That alone dissolved the storm. After a few months, colleagues were surprised to find Duke changed. He was no longer the hot-tempered man, easily inflamed, but a calm person who knew how to listen and yield. When conflicts arose, he asked gently instead of arguing loudly. When misunderstood, he explained instead of getting angry. People said Duke was much gentler now, but in reality, Duke hadn't become gentler. Duke had grown stronger, strong enough not to let anger lead him, strong enough not to let others' words throw stones into the lake of his mind. Someone heard that story and asked, how can just a few breaths change a person? How can breath have such great power? The answer is very simple. Breath is the thread that binds mind and body. When the breath is rapid, the mind will be chaotic. When the breath is long, the mind will be at peace. An angry person usually breathes fast. A calm person breathes slowly. Try to observe this for yourself. Thus, breath is the key that opens the door to peace. Just pause for a moment. Just breathe slowly for a moment. Just allow the mind time to settle, and emotions will no longer make us chase after them. The Buddha once taught that when a person is sad, they are thinking about the past. When a person is worried, they are looking to the future. When a person is afraid, they are clinging to things that haven't happened yet. But when a person is at peace, it is because they are living in the present. This is not some profound philosophy, but just a gentle reminder. No one is angry when their mind is in the present moment. No one is sad when they clearly see their own breath. No one is in pain when they understand what they are feeling. Negative emotions only appear when we run away from ourselves, when we lose connection with ourselves. Mastering emotions isn't about becoming insensitive. It's about knowing when to react and when to be silent. It's about knowing what is worth bothering about and what should be put down. It is understanding that being heavy with others is being light with yourself, and being light with others means having an expansive heart. People often say, choose your battles wisely, but the Buddha taught, choose peace instead of victory. A person who defeats another in anger is defeated by themselves. A person who doesn't react to protect their peace has won a much greater battle. If we pay attention, we will see there are 3 types of people in this world. The first type is easily angered and sees anger as a way to demonstrate strength. But in reality, that is weakness, so weak that they cannot maintain peace in their own minds. The second type knows how to forgive. They forgive not because they are weak, but because they don't want to carry the heaviness in their hearts. They forgive because they understand that holding on only makes them more tired. The third type chooses to let go. They view everything as lightly as a falling leaf. They know that a small matter isn't worth losing an entire day of peace over. This way of living is like a traveler on a long journey, carrying light luggage. The lighter it is, the more comfortable they are. Life is like a long bus journey, with people getting on and off. Some enter our lives for only a few minutes, but leave wounds that last for years. Some accompany us for a very long time without ever hurting us. Those who hurt us are actually just people passing through our lives. We don't have to carry them with us for the rest of the journey. The more we cling to old stories, the heavier our luggage. The heavier it is, the more easily tired we get. And the more tired we are, the more easily we get angry. So letting go isn't losing. Letting go is choosing to move forward lightly. From Duke's life, we understand that change doesn't actually come from grand resolutions, but from small things. A breath, a pause, a look within. All these things accumulate to create transformation. A strong person is someone who conquers themselves. A peaceful person is someone who knows where they are going. A wise person is someone who clearly sees emotions before emotions control them. If tomorrow we encounter something that irritates us, let's try to pause for a moment. Try to breathe slowly 3 times, looking at that emotion as if looking at a crying child. We don't hit that child, nor do we scold it. We just hold it for a moment. When emotions are embraced, they subside. When emotions are understood, they dissipate. A person who understands themselves no longer fears their own anger. Be gentle with emotions, as you would carefully handle a clear glass of water. Don't let anyone stir it up. Don't let any words make the water cloudy. Just let your mind settle. When it settles, it's clear. When it's clear, it's peaceful. That is the art of mastering emotions. An art that doesn't require books, doesn't require extensive study. It just needs a heart that knows how to listen to itself. And when we master our emotions, no storms will have the power to make us falter. We will find this life gentler, lighter, freer. Because the greatest victor isn't the one who wins an argument, but the one who overcomes themselves when anger flares up. There are days you find yourself unable to understand why people hurt each other so easily. A careless word can twist a person's heart. A glance lacking goodwill can weigh down your mind. The older you get, the more you realize that life's suffering isn't from high mountains or vast oceans, but from how people treat each other. Some keep their word and their heart. Others drain people's trust with just one irresponsible statement. Some create peace of mind with sincerity. Others spread wounds with baseless rumors. The more interactions you experience, the more you understand that what tires us isn't hard work, but heavy hearts. It's not long roads, but distant thoughts. It's not many words, but a lack of kindness in words. In modern life, people are good at making money, but poor at conduct. Good at debating, but poor at listening. Good at talking, but struggle to keep their word. Even a very small matter can create a rift that separates 2 people for a lifetime. A misunderstanding as small as a blade of grass is enough to make 2 once peaceful souls become full of cracks. The suffering in interpersonal relationships sometimes comes from not knowing how to put ourselves in another's shoes. We forget that every word is a seed. Good seeds will blossom. Poisonous seeds will sprout thorns. In Buddhism, speech is karma. When speech lacks compassion, bad karma begins. When speech is full of good intentions, blessings are sown. Many people think that great wounds come from life's harsh blows. But in reality, the deepest wounds come from those we once trusted. Therefore, living in the world requires an art. That is the art of conduct to maintain inner peace and pure human connection. Speaking a lot doesn't mean understanding everything. Silence doesn't mean weakness. Arguing to be right doesn't mean winning. The winner is sometimes the one who knows when to stop, so their heart doesn't lose its kindness. If someone asks why people suffer so much from words, perhaps the simple answer lies in ignorance and thoughtlessness. Ignorance is not understanding the karma of one's own words. Thoughtlessness is not putting one's heart into one's actions. An ill-considered word is like a stone thrown into water. The ripples spread further than we imagine. Some are affected, some are swept along. Some have to bear the consequences on our behalf. Therefore, learning how to conduct ourselves is learning how to look deeply into every thought before turning it into words. In Buddhism, conduct is a part of right action. A person who knows how to behave is someone who knows how to speak kind words, do good deeds, and keep a gentle heart, not trying to appear good to others, but living true to their character. Live so that when you turn your back, people still respect you. Live so that when you say something, people believe you have no intention to harm anyone. Live so that every word is like refreshing water, not a knife cutting into people's hearts. Words have such power that the ancients taught that three things must be preserved: the mind, speech, and trust. The mind is the root, speech is the branch, and trust is the fruit. A tree wants to be green, must have a firm root and healthy branches. A human life wants to be at peace, must have a kind heart and careful speech. Some people think that prestige is built from talent, but in reality, prestige is built from one's way of life, living responsibly, with love and sincerity, allows prestige to naturally manifest like moonlight on a lake, not noisy, but shining for a very long time. Among the many virtues that help people maintain connection, there are 6 most important principles. They are respect, honesty, tolerance, not speaking ill of others, not judging, and living responsibly with one's words. Each principle is like a stepping stone, helping us walk more firmly through life. Each principle is like a lotus rising from the mud. The mud is slander. The lotus is character. When you uphold these 6 things, you will not be disturbed by the storms of everyday life. Respect is the foundation of all relationships. Respect creates space for 2 souls to breathe. When we respect someone, we don't try to change them to our liking. We also don't disregard their mistakes. Respect is like holding a glass of water with 2 hands, not clenching it tightly to break the glass, and not letting go loosely to drop it, just holding it gently, but firmly. Respecting others is respecting one's own character. Honesty is clarity of soul. An honest person needs no embellishment. An honest person needs no fear. Honesty is not about saying everything you think. Honesty is saying what is right, what is necessary, and what is good. When truth is spoken with compassion, the listener is not hurt. When truth is spoken in anger, words turn into daggers. Honesty must go hand in hand with wisdom. Not everything needs to be said, but what is said must be accurate. Tolerance is a soft cloak covering the rough edges of life. No one is perfect. No one lives without making mistakes. A tolerant person will be lighter at heart. The mind won't accumulate worries, like a clear glass of water. If a few dust particles fall into it, let the dust sink to the bottom, instead of stirring it up to make it cloudy. Some things should be overlooked. Some matters should be seen as a passing breeze. When you forgive others, you are first and foremost forgiving your own heart. Not speaking ill of others is keeping one's mouth clean. Malicious words are like mud thrown at others. Even if you only want to smear someone, your hands also get dirty. A person who often speaks ill of others is someone who carries too much resentment in their heart. A small slander can hurt others, but it also makes your own mind lose its purity. Not speaking ill of others is not because the other person deserves it, but because you deserve peace. Not judging is the attitude of someone who understands life. No one is qualified to look at another's wound and decide if they are right or wrong. Everyone has their own suffering. Everyone has their own hidden corners. Judging only shows that we lack wisdom. When you stop judging, the world will soften. When you understand that no one is born perfect, you will love more. Living responsibly with one's words is a quality that builds a person's reputation throughout life. A promise must be kept. A statement must be weighed. Uncertain information should not be spread. Words cannot be retrieved like water spilled from a glass. Therefore, the wise know to guard their words and fear the harm their words might cause. The story of Ms. Thao is a very real example. She owned a small eatery in a neighborhood. Regular customers knew her because she was cheerful and enthusiastic. One day, someone asked her about Mr. Loy, a frequent customer. Having vaguely heard some rumors, she carelessly mentioned that he seemed to be involved in this or that matter. She didn't intend to harm anyone, just thought it was a normal story, like a casual leaf falling to the ground. But the listener didn't interpret it that way. They passed it on to others, who passed it on to friends. The rumor spread like ripples on water when a pebble is dropped. No one knew where it started, but everyone knew there was something bad about Mr. Loy. When Mr. Loy found out, he was sad for a long time. He told Ms. Thao that the misunderstanding affected his work. Customers looked at him differently. Friends avoided him because they didn't know what was true. Ms. Thao was stunned, like someone who had just dropped a glass of water, but didn't know when they dropped it. She felt embarrassed and ashamed, not because she was blamed, but because she realized her thoughtless words caused more harm than she imagined. She went to see Mr. Loy and apologized with all sincerity. And from that day on, she vowed to herself that from now on, she would never say anything she wasn't sure was true. She understood that guarding one's mouth is also preserving virtue. Guarding one's words is also preserving one's dignity. The strange thing was that after she lived more carefully and kindly, her eatery attracted more customers. People came to eat because the food was good, but they returned because they trusted her character. They believed that there they would be served with sincerity. They believed that no meaningless gossip would flow from this place. Hearts were thus more at peace. The small eatery thus became brighter. Kindness, indeed, has a ripple effect. From that story, you can see that interpersonal conduct is not something profound. Just keep your words clean. Keep your heart bright. Keep your spirit kind. Just know how to respect. Be honest. Be tolerant. Avoid evil speech. Let go of judgment. And be responsible. Then life will naturally be harmonious. Relationships will naturally be warm. You don't have to try to make others love you. You just need to live correctly. And those who love you will naturally come. The Buddha taught that all suffering comes from ignorance. When we understand the karma of our words, we will naturally know when to stop. When we understand that every word is karma, we will naturally choose wholesome karma. When we know that trust is what makes our lives more stable, we will not dare to say wrong things. Every light word can be a blessing. Every heavy word can be karma. Practice living like someone gently carrying a glass of water. Perhaps that glass of water is someone's heart. Perhaps it's trust. Perhaps it's someone's honor. Release your grip too gently, and it shatters. Squeeze too hard, and it shatters too. Just be mindful, and the water in the glass will be clear, and so will a person's mind. When you behave beautifully, the world will be more beautiful. When you speak kind words, hearts will heal. When you preserve your dignity, human connection will not fracture. Guard your words, and you will guard your humanity. Live rightly, and you will pass through life lightly. And the lesson I leave you with is a very simple but memorable sentence. Guarding your words is guarding yourself. There are days we leave home with a heart full of tension and weariness. Just one displeasing word, a slightly strange glance, or a small hiccup can immediately throw our heart into turmoil. We often think the world is against us, that people are unkind to us, that life becomes heavy and suffocating. But if we sit for a moment, listening to our breath slow down, we might realize that suffering sometimes doesn't come from circumstances, but from our own perception. A moon is inherently round. If the water's surface is stirred, the moon's reflection becomes distorted. It's not the moon that's distorted, but the water that's not still. People are the same. Often, life isn't getting worse, but our perspective is clouded by layers of worry, suspicion, and attachment. If we can just change our perspective a little, perhaps someone we once found difficult will become endearing. A word we once considered an insult might become a gentle reminder. An event that seemed unjust might turn into a beautiful lesson for our growth. In life, we often look at everything through the eyes of habit. The habit of comparing, the habit of judging, the habit of making ourselves the center, and then expecting the world to operate according to our will. But the world is not a stage set up solely to serve our emotions. Every person who passes through our lives, every story that happens to us, carries a certain karmic connection. If we only look through the narrow lens of our ego, we will see only sharp thorns. If we look with a compassionate heart, we will see an entire flower blooming. Many sufferings are not because life is too bad, but because we see it incorrectly. We choose to look at the negative first. We are accustomed to being stressed before seeking the truth, like picking up a glass of water and immediately thinking it's murky, so we dare not drink it. But if we just put it down and wait for the water to settle, we realize that glass of water was inherently clear. Sadness is the same. When the mind is turbulent, everything seems tiring. When the mind pauses, difficulties become simple. In Buddhist teachings, suffering doesn't only come from circumstances, but largely from perception. We call this dukkha samudaya, the aggregates of suffering we accumulate. We get angry because we think someone deliberately insulted us. We feel self-pity because we think people are looking down on us. We are sad because of a feeling of loneliness we create for ourselves. Each such thought is like a raindrop falling onto a still lake, causing the water to ripple continuously. The more we let these thoughts grow, the more turbulent the lake becomes. And then we believe the whole sky is stormy, when it's only our heart churning. Misinterpreting leads to wrong suffering. Seeing askew leads to skewed pain. What we need is not to change the whole world, but to change the way we perceive things. Change your perspective. Change your entire life. A heart that knows how to see with compassion will realize that everyone has their own struggles. Behind a cold face, who knows, there might be a trembling soul. Behind a silence, who knows, there might be a fear that dares not speak. When we are willing to step back half a step, when we are willing to open our hearts a little more, everything will transform. Like a lotus rising from the mud to bloom with a pure fragrance. Like the journey of contemplative meditation in life, we practice looking at everyone with an understanding heart. Even if someone speaks harshly, we try to think they're tired. Even if someone quietly avoids us, we try to think they're worried about something. When we look with compassionate eyes, we are no longer drawn into judgment. We simply want to understand and empathize. It's like looking at a withered leaf. We don't blame the leaf for no longer being green. We understand that it has endured sun, wind, and many rainy seasons. People are also like that leaf. Everyone has their own story that we've never known. In a Dharma talk, there was a sentence that made many listeners suddenly pause. It was the sentence, "Changing your perspective is changing your karma." Because karma is sometimes not circumstances. Karma is sometimes the way of thinking that causes us pain. A person with an angry mind sees everyone as difficult wherever they go. A person with a suspicious mind feels hurt by everyone they meet. A person with a compassionate mind sees everyone as endearing. The mind changes, and the scene changes. Life changes according to the mind. Like the story of Mrs. Mai, a very ordinary story, but containing a profound lesson about how to view life. Mrs. Mai was a loving mother-in-law, but sometimes hot-tempered and had a habit of observing others with apprehension. She feared her daughter-in-law didn't love her. She feared family discord. She feared being misunderstood. Therefore, as soon as she saw her daughter-in-law being silent, she felt uneasy. Her daughter-in-law, Tui, was a reserved person. Tui spoke little. Her gestures were gentle, her steps soft, and she did everything quietly. In Mrs. Mai's eyes, this silence became a barrier. She thought Tui was cold, difficult to approach, and somewhat disrespectful. Sometimes she even thought Tui was distancing herself, not seeing her as family. At every meal, Tui would quietly serve food, clean up, without saying a word. The more Mrs. Mai looked, the sadder she became. The more she thought, the more she felt hurt. The suffering grew from very small judgments. She didn't ask, nor did she try to understand. She only looked with her personal feelings and then created a story that weighed down her heart. She didn't know that sometimes those very thoughts were what hurt her more than anything else. One day, by chance, listening to a Dharma talk on the radio, she heard the speaker say that some people are silent, not because they disrespect you, but because they are too afraid of bothering others. Some people speak little, not because they don't love, but because they don't know how to express it. She listened and felt as if they were talking about her daughter-in-law. Her heart softened, and she suddenly thought that perhaps she had been looking at it wrong. Perhaps Tui was not cold at all, but just carried some apprehension. The next day, instead of looking at Tui with suspicious eyes, Mrs. Mai tried to look with compassionate eyes. She slowly walked closer, her voice soft, as if speaking to a child. "Tui, are you tired? If you are tired, let me help. Rest a bit to feel better." Tui froze upon hearing this, her eyes reddened, and then she suddenly burst into tears. The crying was choked and full of long-suppressed emotions. Mrs. May, alarmed, asked, "What's wrong?" Tui wiped her tears and said, "I didn't dare to speak much because I was afraid you'd think I was disrespectful. I was afraid you'd think I was ill-mannered, so the less I spoke, the more I didn't dare to speak." That moment was like a door opening in both their hearts. Mrs. Mai looked at Tui and saw all the previous misunderstandings vanish. All of it was just because each person had looked at the other through their own assumptions. No one truly understood the other's heart. And just one gentle question, like a ray of sunshine illuminating a dark corner, brightened the entire space. From that day on, Mrs. Mai and Tui became as close as mother and daughter. Mrs. Mai no longer looked at her daughter-in-law with apprehension, but with love. Tui also no longer feared her mother-in-law and began to open up, sharing and conversing. The small house became warmer. Laughter appeared during meals. Affection seeped into every small detail, simply because of one thing. Changing perspective changed an entire relationship. That story shows us a very gentle yet powerful truth. Everyone has a story behind them. Every silence has a reason. Every glance has its own sky. When we change our perspective, we will see a completely different person. We become softer, more understanding, more compassionate. We no longer get angry as before because we know the other person is going through something. We no longer hate as before because we know everyone has unspoken difficulties. That awareness is like walking in the dark. And suddenly, a small lamp is lit. The darkness doesn't immediately disappear, but at least we are no longer afraid. Practicing changing perspective is also practicing letting go. Letting go of the ego, letting go of stubbornness, letting go of harsh judgments that tire both ourselves and others. Try to step back for a moment. Look at everything with a heart that knows how to love, listen, and empathize. We are not always right, and what we see is not always the truth. Life is like a multifaceted mirror. Standing in a different position, we will see a different image. Standing in different light, we will see different colors. Just turn the mirror a little, and the scene immediately changes. If one day you find life too heavy, try asking yourself, is life truly difficult? Or is my perspective just narrow? Is that person really bad? Or is my mind just tired? Is that matter really terrible? Or am I just looking at it negatively? When the mind is light, the scene will be light. When the mind is at peace, life will be at peace. A day of sadness, a day of joy. change your perspective a little, and your heart will immediately find peace. Practice looking at life with compassionate eyes, and you will realize that life is gentler than you thought. There are pains that don't come from major events, don't come from others, but from clinging tightly within one's heart. Someone says a word, and we remember it for years. Someone does something, and we're angry for a lifetime. Some memories are like small thorns, but because we keep holding them, they dig into our skin, into our hearts. The tighter we hold, the more it hurts. The longer we hold, the more tired we become. Some people cling to anger so much that even their smile becomes heavy. Some people let a small misunderstanding close their hearts to the whole world. And many of us have been like that, angry at someone for a wound, resentful at someone for a setback, sad about feeling abandoned. All this because we think forgiveness is too difficult, too much of a loss. But the very moment we refuse to forgive is the moment we trap ourselves in suffering. In life, everyone has been hurt by someone at some point. Loved ones misunderstand, friends turn their backs, promises are broken, feelings are not what they once were. These things are like rain falling on a roof. At first, you only hear a few drops. Then, if the rain gets heavier, the sound of water becomes a deluge. If we open our hearts, the rain is a gentle lullaby. If we close our hearts, the rain turns into a heavy burden. It's the same rain, but the perception differs. For those who know how to let go, rain is a friend. For those who harbor resentment, rain is a reminder of suffering. All due to the mind's perspective. The Buddha taught that all suffering begins with attachment. When we cling to the ego, we see the other person as wrong. When we cling to pain, we see ourselves as victims. When we cling to old memories, we have no room for peace. It's like a clear glass of water with a few drops of lemon squeezed in. The water isn't ruined, it's just that the sour taste makes it difficult to drink. If we add a little clean water, the taste softens. The human mind is the same. With just a little tolerance, pain can dilute. With just a little love, wounds can heal. But the most important thing is that we must be proactive. No one can add water to the glass for us. No one can open the door to our heart for us. No one can wipe away our dried tears for us. To be saved, we must save ourselves first. In the teachings of karma, forgiveness is not forgetting everything, but putting down the burden we have carried for too long. Those who cause harm have their karma. If we harbor resentment, we create karma for ourselves. Those who make us sad only make us sad for a moment. But if we keep remembering, keep bringing it up, we only hurt ourselves. Forgiveness is not for others. It is for your own heart. A heart that knows how to let go will be light. A heart that knows how to let go will be at peace. A heart that knows how to let go will open up a new path, brighter and wider. Like the story of Han and her old friend Vi. A very ordinary story, yet very profound. The two used to be as close as sisters, always together, sharing everything, trusting each other like family. But a misunderstanding in 2010 drove them apart. It started with a comment Vi heard secondhand. The comment was distorted, embellished, misunderstood. Vi got angry, didn't ask questions, didn't clarify, and simply went silent. All contact was cut, thus transforming a beautiful friendship into a long scar in her heart. And Han continued to harbor that sadness persistently, like holding a stone in her chest. The more she held it, the heavier it became. The more she remembered, the more it hurt. Every time she saw an item they had bought together, every time she accidentally heard a song they once liked, her heart would sink like a stone. Reason told her to let go for lightness, but her heart refused to release. She wasn't angry at Vi for the misunderstanding. She was angry that Vi didn't trust her enough to ask. She was angry that a years-long friendship could disappear so easily. The more she thought, the more it hurt. The more she remembered, the more resentful she felt. That anger lasted for years. It didn't erupt fiercely, but smoldered like a hot coal. It didn't burn, but it made her heart constantly ache. Han always believed that Vi had betrayed their friendship, that Vi had changed, that Vi no longer considered her a loved one. She didn't know that she herself was not forgiving herself. She was tying herself with a rope of resentment that outsiders could not see. Until one rainy day, one afternoon full of wind, falling leaves, and persistent drizzles that made everyone's steps heavier. Han rushed home from work and saw a familiar figure standing huddled under the eaves in front of their old school gate. The person had their face down, holding an old, frayed umbrella. Han's heart skipped a beat. It was Vi, the friend she thought she would never see again, the one she had once loved so much and had been angry with for so long. She thought about walking past, pretending not to know her, holding on to the pride of someone who had been hurt. But when she looked closely at the umbrella in Vi's hand, her eyes suddenly softened. That umbrella was a gift she had given Vi for her birthday that year. A small white umbrella with a blue pattern. And inside the handle, she had handwritten a line. "If it rains, call me." A seemingly small phrase, but the two had considered it a bond. Yet now, after so many years apart, Vi still kept that umbrella, even though it was old, frayed, and the handle was chipped. Han looked and felt something inside her both break open and settle. Perhaps Vi was angry, but Vi hadn't forgotten. Perhaps Vi misunderstood, but Vi still kept what she had given her. Some memory still lingered in Vi's heart. Unsure if it was the rain or a sudden warmth in her heart, Han walked over, said nothing, and simply opened her own umbrella, holding it over both of them. Vi started, looked up. Their eyes met in the small space amidst the rain, a hesitant gaze that then softened like a drop of water soaking into dry earth. No one spoke a word, only the sound of rain falling on the roof tiles and the sound of two breaths seemingly blending after many years apart. Then Vi burst into tears, crying like an inner rain, gentle yet penetrating, suppressed yet liberating. Han also couldn't hold back her tears. The two looked at each other and realized that all those years of anger and resentment were merely a layer of dust covering their hearts. Dust covering for too long became a wall. A wall built for too long became a distance, but with just one rain, the wall could soften, the dust could fall, and hearts could meet again. As Vi choked on her words, Han took her friend's hand and said something that even she didn't understand why she could say so easily. Forgiving is first and foremost for yourself. That sentence was like an arrow shot straight into the sadness within both of them. No need to explain, no need to recount old stories, no need to determine right or wrong. Because both understood that anger doesn't make one lighter, resentment doesn't make one happier, and prolonging grudges only hurts oneself. After that rain, they reconnected as if they had never been apart. No need for grand gestures to mend things, just a moment of opening their hearts, just a small act of courage to reach out to each other. Han was able to let go of the anger that had lasted for a decade, letting go of what had suffocated her heart, letting go for inner peace. That story reminds us that forgiveness is an umbrella that shelters us before it shelters others. When we forgive, the rain doesn't stop immediately, but our hearts no longer feel cold and wet. When we forgive, whether others accept it or not doesn't matter. What matters is that we no longer hurt ourselves. Forgiveness isn't about standing behind others. It's about stepping forward to a brighter place. Forgiveness is also self-salvation. A person drowning in water cannot wait for others to pull them out if they don't struggle themselves. A person caught in a net cannot escape if they don't untie each knot. A person in pain from the past cannot find peace if they keep wrapping the past around themselves like suffocating vines. To be saved, one must save oneself first. The Buddha only shows the way. The door is open, but we must walk through it. We can pray for peace, but if our hearts are full of resentment, constant prayer will only make us feel heavier. We can pray for happiness, but if we don't let go of old things ourselves, happiness has no place to enter. We can pray for liberation, but if we cling to the chains of memory, no one can undo them for us. The Buddha is an enlightener, not someone who carries us. The light shows us. Our feet are ours. The path is ours. The wound is ours. And healing must also begin with ourselves. Try to sit down once and look deeply into your heart to see that anger doesn't make you stronger. Resentment doesn't make you superior. Competitiveness doesn't make you happier. Only a heart that knows how to let go can find a peaceful place to take refuge. Let go because you deserve peace. Let go because life is long. Let go because the pain isn't worth trading for your beautiful years. Sadness is one day. Joy is one day. Holding on to hatred makes you heavy. Forgiveness makes you light. And when you know how to save yourself, life will open up a more peaceful path. There are days when people feel they have tried so hard, but still don't find happiness. There are mornings they wake up with their heart feeling heavy, as if carrying an extra stone. No matter how much they do, it never feels like enough. No matter how much they give, it's never acknowledged. People easily forget that amidst the hustle and calculations of life, what truly tires us is not work or the responsibilities ahead, but the relentless chase after our own expectations and others' opinions. We constantly search for something external to make our hearts happy, but forget to listen to the faint breath within. The more we search, the more we feel lacking. The more we chase, the further we drift from ourselves. In the Buddha's teachings, the root of all suffering stems from clinging. Clinging to the desire for praise, clinging to the feeling of needing to be better than others, clinging to life, having to go our way. Every time things don't go as expected, we tense up and feel annoyed. Every time someone misunderstands us, we get sad. Every time we hear a criticism, our heart seems to wither. When the mind clings, the body gets tired. When the mind attaches, life feels heavy. Just like a glass of water, when stirred, it becomes cloudy and cannot reflect an image. Only when it settles down does the water become clear again. The human heart is the same. When we know how to stop, how to settle, how to gently let go, only then can we see the peace that is always present in our minds. Looking at life, we see some people always rushing because they fear being left behind. Some are always afraid of losing out. Some like to compare themselves to others to prove their worth. But in the end, the more you compare, the more you lose. The more you contend, the more you suffer. The tighter you cling, the more it hurts. The truth is, happiness has never been about winning or losing. It lies in the ability to know when to stop, to take a deep breath, to smile at yourself when life doesn't go your way. A day of sadness, a day of joy. Which way we choose to live is what truly matters. There is a beautiful story told about a flower blooming deep in the forest. No one sees it. No one marvels at it. No one praises it. Yet the flower still blooms in its own way. Its petals open in the gentle sunlight. Its fragrance subtly wafts through the wind. Its colors radiate like a gift to the heavens and earth. That flower needs no one's recognition, no one's admiration. It blooms because it is a flower. It gives off fragrance because its nature is to give off fragrance. Even if no one witnesses it, it is complete in its own beauty. Human life is the same. We don't need to flaunt ourselves to be loved, don't need to prove ourselves to feel worthy. If our mind is at peace, we are at peace anywhere. If our mind is bright, we are bright even amidst the dust. To live well, beautifully, kindly, is to give that gift to ourselves. Often, we think we have to be successful to be worth living, have to achieve many things to be proud. But looking deeply into life, we will see some people who are rich, but their minds are restless. Some who are poor, but their hearts are at ease. Some have everything, but still feel empty. Some have nothing but still smile every morning. Wealth or poverty is not in the wallet. It is in the mind. A contented person will always feel enough. A person who doesn't know contentment, even with the whole world, will still feel lacking. Just like a leaf. A small leaf trembles even with a gentle breeze, while a large leaf stands firm even in a strong wind. The human mind is strong when it knows how to accept. The human mind is weak when it keeps chasing after things. Sitting under the shade of a tree, we easily forget that the tree once went through strong winds. Seeing the lotus bloom and emit fragrance, we forget it grew from mud. People are the same. Everyone sees a peaceful exterior, but inside are the rains that once made us tremble, the pains that once hurt us, the tears that once fell in the night. But these very things nourish the soul. If there were no mud, how could there be a lotus? If there were no suffering, how could we learn to understand ourselves and life? So don't blame life for its difficulties. Don't resent people for their indifference. Every experience is a silent teacher that helps us grow. On the journey to find happiness, people often forget that happiness is not something to be hunted for. It is something to be nurtured. Like a flower needs water, sunlight, and time to grow, the human mind also needs gentle care, peaceful mornings, slow breaths, moments when we pause amidst the chaos to ask ourselves a very small question. Have I truly lived today? When we live in haste, everything becomes blurry. When we live slowly, everything becomes clear. Slow down to feel your existence. Slow down to feel. Slow down to be grateful. Live deeply to see that every drop of water has value. Every step has meaning. Every moment is a gift. Some people live an entire life without ever being present in their own lives. They work, but their mind is elsewhere. They eat without knowing they are eating. They speak without knowing they are speaking. They walk without knowing their feet are touching the ground. A scattered mind tires the body. A drifting mind leads to a lost life. When we return to our breath, we return to ourselves. Just one deep and slow breath, and we have touched the peace we have been searching for all along. Life has never lacked peace. It's just that our hearts are too busy to hear it. When we look at life with gentle eyes, we will see that no one is our enemy. Everyone is just traveling with us on the bus called circumstance. People get on, people get off. Some stay for a long time. Some just pass through. We cannot keep anyone forever, nor can we force anyone to love us the way we want. Our task is to live kindly, sincerely, gently. When we emit fragrance like a flower, those who love us will naturally find us, and those who dislike us will naturally drift away. No need to force, no need to compete. When the mind is like a calm lake, the clear blue sky can reflect in it. When all paths end, what remains is not how much we had, but whether our mind is at peace. The more mature one becomes, the more they understand that peace and joy come from letting go, not from holding on. Let go of useless desires. Let go of old sorrows. Let go of unnecessary angers. Let go to be light, light to be at peace to live deeply every moment. When the mind is at peace, life naturally settles. When the heart is clear, the path naturally brightens. When we no longer chase after happiness, happiness will find us. Amidst countless worries, in the responsive teachings of the Buddha, I hope you remember that life doesn't demand you to be outstanding. It only asks you to become the most peaceful version of yourself, living like a flower, blooming deep in the forest, without ostentation, without trying to be better than anyone, but soft enough, wholesome enough, gentle enough to warm your own soul and spread a light fragrance into life. May you find peace in your own breath, in the gaze you offer to life, in every step you take on this earth. No matter how great the storms outside, as long as you maintain a bright and peaceful mind, you will always have a place to return to.